The Occupy movement has received more than their share of media attention. Their voices are being heard, but other people who should be heard are starting to speak up.
So I keep hearing about these Occupy events, where unemployed, overeducated hipsters gather to protest the evils of corporate greed. But just what the hell is corporate greed? Seriously, what business doesn't want to make a profit? When you reach the age where you're actually willing and able to support yourself, you might have a 401k, in which case you'll realize that this corporate greed that you demonstrated against when you were young, stoned, and unemployed is actually a good thing.
Yeah, a good thing. It's becoming a YouTube sensation because the man in that video, Matt Franklin, is saying a lot of things that other people are thinking. Matt joins us now from Seattle. Matt, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show.
All right, Matt, first of all, I want you to tell me whether or not you had any idea that this thing would be going, I'm using the word nuclear, that this thing that you put together, this YouTube, would be as popular. I mean, people all over the world are watching it. Did you have any idea that what you, Matt Franklin, were thinking and feeling in your belly would have this much of a market all over the planet?
I had absolutely no idea. In fact, I recorded that video in a hotel room. I took a vacation in Hawaii at the beginning of the month, and I should have been out enjoying the sun and surf, but I was so just kind of irked about this whole thing that I sat in my hotel room and recorded that video. And I thought maybe 30 people would watch it, maybe, if that.
Now, how many companies did you mention in the entire piece? And if people want to look at it, they can just get to charlesadler.com, and it's right close to the top of the page. They can easily find it. But how many companies are the occupiers actually supporting with what they're doing?
Well, in my little story, I think there was like 22 different big evil, wicked corporations that they were utilizing in communicating and planning and getting together to make their little protest.
Now, of course, their side of it is, as you would imagine, hey, how are we going to get our message across when these mean capitalists own all these methods of production and methods of communication and dissemination? And so why is this guy Franklin bothering us about that? How does he expect us to communicate?
Well, I say if you're really rallying against these evil corporations, then you should figure out a way to essentially not use them. You should be boycotting them. You shouldn't be helping them profit. I'm a capitalist, so I'm all for it, but I'm not going to go out and rally against something that I use and depend on every day.
Now, one of the things that I find interesting about your life is that you have tried to turn yourself and have succeeded in turning yourself into a recession-proof character. You don't care whether there's a double dip. You care from a human point of view. But you don't think that even if there was a double dip, and it's much less likely now, that somehow you wouldn't find ways of working. You got started on being an entrepreneur. You really got going in the teeth of the Great Recession right after the crash. So I want to ask you this about your own value system, because you're based in a very, very liberal town, Portland, and you're a conservative. You're a bit of a black sheep, and you're not like a lot of other conservatives that people are used to. What is it in your value system that you were brought up with that made you feel that you could bulletproof yourself against the economic tides?
Well, I'd have to say I probably learned it from my father, not because he sat me down and said, son, always work, or, he didn't give me any kind of inspirational speeches, but he worked his butt off for his whole career, and he went through the downturns. I remember in the early '80s when things really tanked. He was a corporate pilot. He lost his job, and he ended up having to be a crop duster for a while in Montana. But there was just absolutely never a question that he was going to support himself and his family. And I think kind of that might be where this came from for me. It's just not a question. And I would never blame somebody else if I were unable to make a living. I can try harder. I could do something different. I could use creativity, and I can support myself.
And Matt, you're standing on the shoulders of some giant thinkers, and you outlined them on your blog. We've only got time for your website address. Throw it out there because I want people to be even more inspired by you than they already are right now. What's your site?
The site is the unlikelyconservative.com, and it's just some little thoughts that I have as a person who kind of got forced into conservatism through having to run my own businesses and realizing that these crazy Occupy Wall Street people are kind of ridiculous, and I don't want to be part of that.
The unlikelyconservative.com. Matt Franklin, thank you very much for everything you do, and we'll have you back for sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Charles. Have a great day.